Hello, Kathy here. Before today's show begins, I'd love to share some news. In these past weeks, you've heard me talk about my book, The Most Powerful You, and the video companion course that we created. Well, now I'm so excited that we are launching a live version of this course, complete with 8 weekly online coaching calls with me starting May 12th. This live version allows me to work together with a group of women from around the world to directly expand your leadership strength, communication skills, networking abilities, negotiating, your executive presence, and help you overcome the imposter syndrome that impacts 75% of executive women today. If you're facing anything that you feel is in the way of your highest, most rewarding career potential, then this is the place for you. Please do check it out at mostpowerfulyou.com/live course. And sign up by May 4th to save $500 and get some really great bonuses too. Thank you so much. I hope to see you there.
If you're talking to the same people, Kathy, and I tell folks this, you are going to get the same answer. So if you've got the same people in the room, I guarantee you're going to get the same answer.
Hello, everyone. This is Kathy Caprino, and welcome to my podcast, Finding Brave. I've created this show for everyone who longs to create something bold and brave in their life, to rise up, speak up, and stand up for who they are, and to reach their highest and biggest visions. Each week, I'll be speaking with inspiring guests from all walks of business, leadership, entertainment, the creative arts, and the entrepreneurial world. And they'll be sharing their intimate stories of finding brave and offer their best strategies for building your most rewarding, joyful, and meaningful life, business, and career. Hello, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Finding Brave. So glad you're here. So grateful that you're here and you tune in, many of you, every week. I hope the show doesn't disappoint, and I hope you feel it's a wide variety of coverage of things we need to understand today to make our lives better, our cultures better, our organizations better. I know I'm learning every day, and today is just that example of how to speak with someone who understands a topic that's so important and understands it in a different way than we do. And today's guest is Fields Jackson Jr. Thank you so much, Fields, for being here. I'm so excited.
Kathy, absolutely my pleasure. Absolutely.
Oh, and you're crashingly busy preparing for a new career fair.
Yes, to get people that want to get diverse hires hired. So yeah, absolutely.
So you are busy and I'm taking your time. So we're going to make this good. I want to tell you all, we are talking about what it really takes to build a diverse, equitable, and inclusive work culture and organization. So we are going to get real. We were just talking, Fields and I, about there's so many books, so many articles, but I feel that what's missing is the real straight talk about what is actually required to build a diverse organization and culture, and why there's resistance to it, why there's some lack of understanding of what has to happen. We're going to get into it. We're going to give you straight talk, right?
Right.
All right. But I want to tell you all about Fields, people, so you can look up his amazing work and follow it. Fields Jackson Jr. is currently the founder and CEO and chief cheerleader of Racing Towards Diversity magazine. He's also adjunct professor, teaching principles of business at Shaw University and also teaching at South Carolina State and Southern University. And he is the former executive director of the HBCU Business Dean Roundtable. How fascinating. Fields was recognized by Diversity Best Practices as one of the top diversity thought leaders on Twitter, and has also been identified by Analytica, am I pronouncing that correctly?
That's right. Mm-hmm.
Based in London, England, as number 13 of the top 100 global influencers focusing on gender equality and diversity. So great. All right, let us dig in. It's like you're over for dinner. I'm going to ask you questions that maybe other people don't ask, I hope.
Absolutely.
All right. First of all, let's just define it. DEI, we hear the term diversity, equity, inclusion. What is it really? What is it in practice? Not the nice philosophical academic, but what is it really?
really is including everybody, just having a fair, level playing field for everyone, regardless of race, gender, creed. Just so it's ideas, it's people, and again, where does the best ideas come from? Where did the best thoughts come from? They come from all different types of people. So again, if you open that up and you just use it as a business case, not that it's a dating service or something like that, why would you deprive yourself of great ideas? Why would you deprive yourself of a new market? Why would you deprive yourself of new foods? Why would you? So again, it's sort of just open it up. So when you start to segregate those things and say, well, only these folks have good ideas. Okay, that in my mind limits what you're trying to do. If you're looking to start a separate society, then it's probably ideal that we're just going to have it's this type of folks that we're going to have. So
and we've had that. We know what that looks like.
People tried it. They've tried it, and it didn't
they're still
work.
trying it, frankly.
Well, they're still trying it, but again, they tried it. Hitler tried it. It didn't work. So again, if that's your goal, then lean into it. Tell everybody that this is what you're doing. Don't mix words of this is what we're trying to do. And now people can make a choice. Now, if I know that that's what you're doing, it helps me, because if that's what we're going to do and I want no part of that, right? I'm not going to be in the same zip code when you're around. But if you're looking to do things and say, hey, we want to build the best cars. Well, the best cars meet a lot of different criteria. So you need to get a lot of people around to help you build those things. So again, to me, it's just it's not a dating service. It's not a hey, we're not going out to get married or anything like that. But again, if we're going to attract the best minds, we want the best people thinking about this. We want we've got a global pandemic, so I want the best possible thoughts coming around that. You got to open it up as opposed to closing it. So I
love it. Now
that's diversity as far as I'm concerned.
I love it. Now let me ask this, and we've talked about this, off the podcast. A lot of people say, I can get with what you just said. I understand the value of diversity. Where it all goes wrong is the inclusion part. Mm-hmm. So you said, it's people feeling included. Mm-hmm. I would say and my perspective is working with thousands of mid to high level professional women who often don't feel mm-hmm. included in all of those deep ways mm-hmm. that only people who've been left out understand what it feels like. Sometimes you're not even you mm-hmm. go, what's going on here? Something's a little weird. How come I'm the only woman at the table, but not one person called on me to speak? Mm-hmm. We have to do more than being called on, but mm-hmm. when I would have an idea, someone else, a guy, would take it and run with mm-hmm. it. Wait a minute, what's happening? Often a lack of inclusion mm-hmm. is puzzling, and we're not sure what it is. Mm-hmm. But can you talk about, okay, I understand I need diversity, but my view is what's missing most is that the diverse people in the organization don't really feel included. Can you talk about that?
Well, it's, you could still work at a high level and not be included. Yeah. So you feel like you're an outsider, but you've been in places where, and you could be, you enjoy cooking and whatever that is. So when do you feel you're at your best, when you're doing your best work? I don't think if I feel excluded, and I may do work and you see me there, but are you getting the best of me? Probably not. If I wake up in the middle of the night and I dread coming to this place, okay, I can still probably perform, and sometimes you burn yourself out because I'm performing at a high level, but it's, your whole being is saying this doesn't right.
And you work with leaders to help yes. them build more diversity, mm-hmm. equity, inclusion. What are the ways? So we have people listening who manage people who are leaders. Mm-hmm. I want everyone listening, including me, to understand what are the ways we tell people, not just in words, but in every other way, what are the ways you're seeing that people come to you and go, I don't think I'm being included? Like, what are the ways that shows up? Yes, I mentioned in a meeting, how come my ideas, they just lay flat, but the guys in the room, their ideas are brilliant. I'm not bashing men here. It
No, no, no,
happens
no,
with
no, no,
every
no. But
underrepresented
again,
group but what other ways do people not feel included?
well, being a inclusive leader, you can be a leader. There's bad leaders. I mean, there's people that are bullies, and they're terrible leaders. But sometimes the organization, that way of doing business is promoted.
Right.
So you're telling everybody that the way to get to the top is to bully and berate. And so again, you can probably feel that when you walk into the building. There's this hostility and the tough guy. So again, if that's the way, and I'm not that type of person, well, you're probably not going to hear a peep out of me. Now, the sad thing is, what if I'm the smartest person in the room?
Right.
And sometimes people, you're not gonna get any of my feedback. So like being a good coach, being a good mom, being a good dad, it's a skill set, and there's people that are better at it than others. There's people that, and some of my greatest leaders, some of the people that helped me the most. A lot of them, some of it was negative because I said, well, okay, I saw how badly that person treated that person who raised their hand. And I said, wow, if I ever get in a position, so it was like negative. I said, if I ever get in a position, I don't want to do that. That was,
you
that,
learn
that
by
just,
example what not to do.
oh,
Like,
you were
okay, that ain't gonna happen.
bad leadership actually. So man, that just crushed Harry, and the guy went up and jumped off a building. So now I said, man, I don't want to do that. So you also see the other side of that, where you've been in those situations where, I've had leaders where, I would do anything for them. They would, they treated you, right by just, they just treated you. They come in, they had doesn't have to smile on their face all the time, but they came in and your whole spirit just picked up. And he said, hey, so the guy would say, hey, you know what, guys, I need to go out. We need to move the building. And I know you can't move the building, but I'm out there with everybody. We're trying to push the building because this guy said it.
He said, right? I got to do it. I'm doing it.
We got to do it. And there's other people that said, hey, we got to work overtime. And then I'm going, I'm counting the seconds to get out of this place. And everybody's, if you've been around on the planet, everybody's been there. I can't stand this place. I'm breaking out and so all kind of stuff's happening to me, right? And somebody asked me to do something, and guess what? I'm not doing anything extra here.
For you or for this place?
Or this place. So, 5 o'clock, and I'm exploding out the door. I'm not running. It's like an explosion, and I'm out the door. So what's the difference? What you see, there's a difference where, this one guy says, hey, Fields, I need you to work another hour. Gladly. You didn't have to ask. So that comes down to leadership. I see those people, they usually, have happy teams. The teams do really well. The teams are diverse. Everybody seems to get along. Hey, I want to have you come over my house. It's like a family. And I've got places where, guess what? You ask me, I'm not going anywhere near this place.
So can I dimensionalize that for a minute?
Sure.
For people? When I think of those kinds of situations where I'll do anything for my boss, or it's like a family, I would say these are the elements that are needed. Tell me if I'm getting it right. First of all, there's trust.
Yes.
High level. You are not going to crush
High
me.
level.
You're going to listen. You may not agree, but you're going to treat me with respect. You're going to recognize that I'm trying to contribute. So there's trust. There is also, when you see, it's very difficult. You might love your boss, but when you see the senior leaders, like I remember one president of a company I work for said to my boss in a high level meeting, this boss said something and the president said, well, duh.
Yeah.
To my senior vice president boss. I mean, so sometimes you like your manager, but the leadership, the way people act, demeaning, narcissistic, they're only looking at maybe the color of your skin or gender as who's got anything valuable to say. There's also how you handle challenge. Like with diversity comes, I don't want to say conflict, difference.
The difference.
So if you're standing there running a meeting and you say you have a diverse culture and it's inclusive, yet people that challenge you, you crush them or humiliate them
Right.
or shame them, you don't have a diverse, inclusive culture. Well, here's a question. And if I say it wrong and
There's
offensively,
no wrong.
you're going to let
There's
me
never
know.
wrong.
But I remember when we had a chat a while ago. So I'm a white woman and my swim lane is helping women. And I will be honest, when Black Lives Matter really came into the forefront, a lot of people were asking me, okay, you talk about women's issues. Now I want the filter of people of color. What are women of color facing? And while I understand the data, women, for instance, make, I don't even know what it is today, 75 cents to the dollar of white men. Black women, it's less, much less. I said, and I realized this is a mistake and I got to address it, but I view women as a collective who are dealing with issues, and I'm facing it that way. Whereas it would be better for me to understand specific underrepresented groups and their issues as well. But here's what I'm saying. You mentioned stuff that you have gone through as a Black man and what you see in HBCUs with, Black students that I want white people to hear. Would you mind sharing what you have experienced, in employment when you were in your younger years, and also what you see even today about discrimination against the Black students you are working with? Would you mind talking about that?
Well, no, I think, I've been around quite a long time. I think to me, there's been a change. Well, at least there was to me, there's been, because I'm optimistic.
Oh, wow.
I know there's a lot of chatter out there, but the thing that changed in my life was George Floyd.
Yeah.
And again, the tragic way he died was an eye opener to a lot of folks. Not me.
Not you.
No, that I've
Because
heard
this is
from my
not
grandfathers. From since I've been a little guy, this has happened to Black people.
I see what you mean.
This has happened. What changed was that the world,
the rest of the world saw it.
Got to see for 8 minutes a young girl who was brave, because that policeman was leaning in on her, that held that camera, didn't turn it away for 8 minutes, and you got to see man's inhumanity to man in its rawest form. That's what changed. Now,
and do you see people's minds having been changed now?
Not everybody. I've had CEOs. I had a CEO call me after that, and he was in tears. We had friends. He's a white CEO. He said, Fields, he said, again, you see that, and he said, Fields, I can't believe that happened. And he was, just as a friend, he was kind of sharing it. He said that, and I said, how did it make you? He said, it was terrible. And I said, and he was going on, and he was in tears. And I said, well, you know what? I hate that to happen to you, but again, that's been in my world.
This has been your reality.
This is my reality. He said, Fields, that can't be. I goes, no, that's the way it is. That's the way it is. So he said, now I get, he had Black and brown employees. And he said, what do I do? I said, well, did you say anything to your employees? He goes, no, I don't think I can. I'm not a Black guy. I said, I know you're not a Black guy. He said, well, I said, well, you got to, was it? And I said, now, this is what you got to decide. What you saw, was it right or was it wrong? He said, it was wrong. I said, you got to say that. The silence there's no more silence. Because again, I guarantee you, and I said this on other programs. I said, your Black and brown employees, right, when they came to work, because everybody was traumatized, the whole world was traumatized, right, in one way or another. So when they came back from work, the first thing their family asked me, said, "Hey, how was work today?" Because again, it was like one of those moments. How was work today? Oh man, everybody was like, so did your boss say anything? No.
Jeepers.
Now, in my world, the default mechanism is that you were okay with that. He goes, I wasn't okay. I said, well, you didn't say anything. Right. So silence is, there's no more silence. Because when you go silent, I'm thinking my default is that you were okay with that. Right. And the thing is, if you weren't okay with that, then just say, hey, I'm not saying you got to get out. And again, do not get out and start talking about how many Black friends you have. Do not get out and start quoting the Bible, but just say, hey, you know what? I saw something the other day. I was not aware that was happening, but you know what? That was wrong. And now, again, what I'd like to do is now going forward, let's see if we can get some employee resource groups around. We need to talk about this and see how, at least in our little small part of the world, we can make this better. Now, that does one or two things. Right? Now, when your employees go home, did your boss say anything? Yes. Oh my God. Right? Oh my God. Now, the thing is, and you know this, there's 800 bosses that didn't say a word. Still didn't say a word. Right? So again,
I'm dying to ask this.
If I'm working for you, right, you may not have those feelings, but if I'm thinking that, okay, I'm working for a guy that thought that was okay. You have politicians that say that was okay. It was just a police activity. And so there's all kind of stuff going on out here. So now, where do I stand with this person? So again, to me, it ended the silence. You had to say, okay, was this right or was it wrong? And then if it was wrong, what do you intend to do about it, right? And if it was right, if it was okay, I mean, now you come out and say it. So now and this is, you see the mass resignation. People are now, because either they were treated badly or things are happening, you're starting to see these people that are voting with their feet. I'm not going to work for somebody that treats women that way, or whatever the situation is. So I know it's a long.
All right, now question, because we're going to get to how do we do this, a diverse, inclusive culture. I think that there's a group inside of that group that doesn't say anything, and they don't say anything because they're scared of saying the wrong thing.
It's right or wrong. There's nothing wrong. So you either say, I don't want you to elaborate and stand into, so was it right? Or was it wrong? Yes, it's binary, right or wrong.
Now, let me ask you something, because you work with leaders. Has anyone ever said, I believe it was wrong, but if I stand up and say it was wrong, people will leave? Do you ever have anybody worried about
absolutely.
that? And what do you tell them? What do you tell them?
You know what? It's your belief. Now, what are your core beliefs?
Right.
So there's people that told me, Fields, I thought he had it coming. Wow. Okay. I disagree. I'm not going to argue with you, but you know what? If and I'd say, you know what? I hope that wasn't your son under somebody's knee. Well, so again, that's your opinion. But now I'm making a choice, right? Because now if you're telling me, I think that was okay, and Fields, I want you to come help me run my diversity program, I'm going to tell you no.
Let me ask this. I'm getting deep. I hope these are okay questions.
Oh, these are all great questions.
I mean, this is what no one will ask, because so they don't know what the hell to do.
You have to ask.
You got to ask. All right. So here's the question. Have you heard? So let me just state so people understand. I would have no problem saying that. I mean, I have a small team in my business. Mm-hmm. I might say, I think we're all probably suffering from what we've seen. If anyone wants to talk about it, I am here. I might do it that way. Mm-hmm. But this is what I want to ask you. Has anyone said to you, I don't want to go political? Like, one thing this is all done is we realize, how do I put this? That everything, that who we are professionally is inextricably linked with who we are personally. You can't separate it. And a lot of career coaches say, I don't talk about the personal. What? I mean, how are you getting anything done? I mean, you are a person when you show up to your leadership.
Correct.
So, but have you ever had recently a leader say, I don't want to get political. I don't want to make that statement. And of course, I don't think this is political. I think this is humanity. But have you had any leaders say, I don't want to do that?
Absolutely. But in not saying anything, you said something. So that's
and you made it political.
You made it. What did your boss say? He said nothing. Okay.
So we can guess where he stands. Either he or she is either too afraid.
Or guess what? Now I'm gonna now all the assumptions come in. Now I'm gonna assume because you didn't say anything, right or wrong, right? So again, I'm not a diversity person, and you can admit I'm not a diversity person. I saw something that was shocked me. I didn't know. I'm 90 years old. I've never seen anything like that in my life. However, I've got 1,000 employees, and I know if that affected me, it had to affect my employees. So I'd like to, what's the best way to go sort of about getting to that? Now, this is where you start to talk. You're actually talking to your employees. Imagine that. Hey, I'm not going to get into a kumbaya session here, but you know what? How did that affect you? Does anybody, hey, raise your hand. Does anybody know anybody that does counseling around this stuff? So again, it shows whether you do it or not, it shows you care. Now you say, hey, you know what? He had it coming. Wow. Okay. Now there's going to be a group of folks that maybe they raise their hand. Yeah, he had it coming. Okay. So those folks will follow you. And guess what? The other folks are going, you know what? I don't know if I can, now the decisions start to get made. Now I don't know if I want to work for a place that, you know what? So again, yeah, there just happened to be that moment. It just happened that everybody saw it. It was just one of those things that it was one of those marks in time where, you got a chance to sort of say, hey, this is what we're doing. So to me, it's not political to say, hey, you know what, I'm spending 80% of my time here. I spend more time here with my family, right? So if I'm going to, and people say, bring your whole self to work, or bring yourself to work, and the thing is, whether I say right or wrong, there's no reason for me to pull a knife and just, okay, that's how you think. Okay, this is how I, and then now to the other side, you need to hear how I think now. Okay?
Now, let me ask this, having been a therapist and working with a lot of professionals, many are not skilled in communication. So here's what I would ask.
Go ahead.
If someone came to me and said, no, I don't consult with leaders, I consult with the levels below. I would say, and this is what I do, I run courses, and often a very therapeutic issue, a very deep problematic issue emerges. I won't do therapy right there. Right. But I know, because I was a former therapist, how to create a safe space for that person who's weeping, for that person who's suffering. I know what to do. And I know also how to refer them out to a service, an organization, an ERG that has better tools. Correct. So one thing I would say, people, is yes, you want to make a stand, but I would not encourage a debate right there. You're not skilled enough to run it. You're not skilled enough. I would say if we want to talk about it, I would point them into a direction. So would you say, is this where an employee resource group would be helpful? Is this what other places can we skillfully address all of the emotion and anxiety and hatred and fear that many of us have? Where do we?
Well, everybody's got those things, but again, it depends. Now, if it could be an employee, it could be, but again, if the person that's expressing this has 1,000 people working for them, you got a problem.
Yeah. You mean if they're expressing, I don't think it was a problem.
I don't think it was a problem, so again, all right. So you say, now, hey, and now the next step is to how are your diversity numbers? I don't believe in diversity. So again, now you're getting to, okay, no wonder your diversity numbers. So you're not even trying to do this, are you? No. Okay. I appreciate, to me, I appreciate the honesty. Oh my goodness.
But and boy, I'm writing this down. I want to talk about, because look at you, we're already at the end of our time. No, measurement. I want to get to that. How do we measure? But before that, would you agree with me that very well-meaning people are sometimes poor communicators?
Oh, they're terrible.
And can sometimes erupt a scenario
But
that
again,
was
now
from
as
their
leaders,
faulty communication.
but
Oh,
you can be, so the thing is, the situation now demands a different leader now.
yeah,
So the time is also, again, you could have been a leader and now all of a sudden, you know what, you are a terrible communicator. And now it's been identified. And you know what? And this is what, you've been here 20 years, Hank, and you're my best buddy, but guess what? You're not the person for this.
right.
Right. You know what? Because again, so again, the time now dictates we need to either start training you. So let's get you in some kind of training. Well, I don't want to do it. Well, Hank, I'm telling you, man, this is important.
And you know what?
We got people leaving in droves. You know what I'm saying?
And also it should be part of your mission. Here's what we
Yes.
support. We support
Yes.
equality. We support
Yes.
fairness.
Yes.
In every way that shows up. It should be
Yes.
part of your bylaws, part of your mission stated.
Yes.
So Hank or Sally,
Or Sally, or
I get it,
yeah,
but
yeah.
but if you look at what our core mission has become, and it
Yes.
changed last year,
Yes.
but if you're not aligned with that, it's not a fit any longer.
Right. And that just, and again, now you adjust just like you would adjust if somebody's not hitting their sales numbers, just like you would adjust if somebody's not hitting their budget. You see what I'm saying? So the thing is, everybody gives diversity a pass. No, it's a business. It's business, right? So if your business is, hey, we want all white male, say it, put it on your mission statement. There's no confusion. Now you're probably going to run into problems with the Justice Department.
Right. Yeah.
You're going to get sued.
Get
But
ready
again,
for the
now everybody's clear,
lawsuits.
right? So that's what happens when you get that definitive with it. So the thing is now, because of the numbers, even though you're not visibly saying this, the numbers are also showing that this is what you think.
And I love how, yeah, that's what you think. Put that on paper and see how that
Correct.
looks on LinkedIn.
Correct.
If you don't get your, I don't mean to be snarky. Pull it back.
No, don't. It's not snarky. It's not snarky.
Self-awareness. All
Correct.
right. I don't really, you say that people tell you, I don't believe in diversity. Like my world, I don't know what the hell language they're talking. But if someone said that to me, as a therapist background,
Kathy,
I'd say, okay, you're entitled to your opinion, but put that on
Kathy,
paper and put that on LinkedIn and see how well that goes for you.
I've walked into rooms, and you've learned this. Well, how come you don't have any women on your board? I can't find anybody. I just said, you know what? And I said, please don't say that. You can't find anybody, because half the planet is women, half the planet. So again, I can't find any. So there's women running congressmen, there's women running, universities. You can't find anybody. And I said, you're
not looking.
You're not even looking. So, have you bounced this? Have you bounced this off your wife? Do you have a dog? You know what I'm saying? So again, and then
do you
people
come
get
at
mad.
them like that? And how
Yeah,
do
they
they
get mad.
respond? What do
I
they?
said, so your wife has no friends? What are you talking about? I said, hey, you know what? You can't find women. I mean, that's a statement where, you're saying half the planet can't mentally meet the challenges that you're proposing here. Oh, that's not good, man. And especially if you're selling a women's line of clothes. Not a good look, bro. Not a good look. So usually, depending on how that meeting goes, I'm probably not getting asked back, but that's fine. Because again, you don't want to do this, so why waste our time here? You don't want to do it. You don't want to do it. And so now you're making these definitive statements. I can't find women. I don't want to be anywhere near when the photo op comes out. I don't want to be anywhere near you if that's what you think.
Haven't you? And if you can share this, if you can, I totally understand. But in your Racing Toward Diversity magazine, have there been some people that have said, how come you're not featuring me?
Oh yeah, absolutely. All the time. And I tell them, I said, hey, you know what? We have a top 25 that we track about 600 companies. We got about top 25. In terms of diversity measurement, which we're going to talk about. Diversity measurement, there's companies that we believe are doing a tremendous job. In recruiting, retaining, supplier diversity, they got a advancement. Board. And the thing is, and we have no financial tie with them. They're not a sponsor. They're not anything. Right. And we've got some companies that, again, they sponsor us and we do events with them. And so we got about 6 or 7 companies that actually are in that top 25 that, we get some type of, I don't want to say pay to play, but, sure, we believe in what they're doing. Right. We've had other ones that, guess what, they don't even know who we are. But based on the metrics that we track, the board of directors, if you look at their C-suite, right? You look at the programs, you look at their social media, it's sort of transparent to us that, who sort of believes in this. When you go to their Facebook page, and everybody on the Facebook page that looks like me is not saying they're quitting or they hate the place. So you sort of get a feel for, what's out there in the environment. So there's companies out there that are, what, Kathy, you don't hear about crazy stuff in the news. I'm telling you, you just don't hear. Then there's companies that every week there's something crazy coming out of the CEO's mouth, or so again, we tend to stay away from those folks. Some of them are very good at photo ops and checking boxes, and all the surface kind of things, right? But yet and still, when you ask them about diversity, there's this hostility. Hey man, so part of that, we tend to try to stick around those companies where they don't have a problem. There's women that you talk to the women in the organization and they go, man, I love working here. Man, they give me time. So again, you talk to the people that are actually, forget about the bosses. You walk in here and say, man, you know what? This is one of the best places I ever worked for.
Wow.
And then you go to places where there's Black or Hispanic people and they go, man, you know what? This is the greatest place I've ever worked for. And then you go to other places where, guess what? You hit the door and there's so much hostility. You feel it. I mean, it's just, I don't know, maybe I don't feel I'm a psychic or anything, but you feel it. You go, man, this is a restaurant. And I don't want to eat here. I tell my wife, check, everybody's like, snapping at you, like, hey, I'd like to order. Hey, waiter, I'd like to order. What? Hey, I'm good. Check.
Just the water, please.
Check. Hey, you know what? If you're treating me this way and you're the waiter, I don't know what they're doing back there. But guess what? When my friends come to town, I'm not telling them to come see you. I'm going to tell them to go over here when I hit the door, whatever I look like. Hey, Mr. Jackson, how's Mrs. Jackson? There's a way to treat people. And there's people that, guess what? I'm going to treat you any way I feel like treating you. And what happens now, Kathy, people are voting with their feet. People say this mass resignation. Yeah, you were treating people bad. And you know what? They woke up one day and go, you know what? I'm not doing this anymore.
Why would I stay here?
Why would I stay here? Why? But what happens is, there's companies where all of a sudden there's an uptick in their hiring. Why is that? Because there are people saying, hey, you know what? You make a little bit less money over here, but they treat you nice. They don't treat you bad. They acknowledge you in the morning. If you got an idea, and even if you can't speak, they'll hey, Fields is so smart. We'll learn sign language. We'll learn because this guy is, So there's companies out there, and this is what's great about America. You don't have, it's like Russia, you have to work here. No, you can work anywhere you want, and people are doing that. And I think those companies that have diversity, inclusion, and they're that type of company have better products, they got better services, it's great to work there. And the ones that are, guess what, where the guy is, everybody has to be, white, national. Well, okay, then put that sign up front, let everybody know, and you'll feel better. I'll feel better.
It's too much. It's too, I love your straightforwardness. I want to ask one other question so people understand. And then are you okay for 5 more minutes?
Oh, absolutely. I love talking to you.
Thank you. When we last talked, you talked about being, I want to get it right, executive director of the HBCU Business Dean Roundtable. Mm-hmm. And you mentioned something really instrumental that happened with career fairs, with hiring, that you, maybe not single-handedly, but something huge that happened that was positive. Do you know what I'm referring to?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Can you talk about that so people can understand what this looks like in practice, how we move the needle in our own organizations and not just talk the talk? Do you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, how we move. And again, I'm no longer the executive director. So
right.
I did a 4-year stint, and it was one of the, I did not go to an HBCU,
yeah,
but I became immersed in HBCU.
What an experience.
It was unbelievable.
Wow.
So the way it started was some of the companies I worked with we're looking for, I think, interns or something.
Right. This is it.
And we were talking about something else. And they said, well, Mr. Jackson, while we're on the subject, we're having a tough time finding diverse candidates for this internship. And I said, okay, so I'm thinking maybe it's rocket science or, patent attorney or something where it's like so just
narrow.
So
and
what's
niche.
real narrow in this? I said, what is it? It was a sales and sales job.
Yeah.
And I said, you got to be kidding me. They said, no, we're having a tough time. So I jokingly, and this was about 6 years ago, my youngest, Austin, was in college. And I joke, and again, I just, I tend to spin things the other. I said, well, if you only need 100, you only need 99 now, because Austin's mama, my wife, will pack a lunch and Austin will be there tomorrow. Well, they laughed.
He was a senior then? He was a senior?
No, he was a sophomore. It was a sophomore, but it was an internship, and it was a great, internship. A lot of kids can't find these internships. But
right.
I said, hey, I called Austin. I said, I got you a job, right? So I said, so if you only need 100, you only need 99 because Austin will be there tomorrow. So where do you need him, right? His mom will pack a lunch. He'll be there. And I said, well, send it over to me because I'm running into all these kids that are telling me they can't find these things. So I'll find you the kids, right? So I sent it off to a couple schools, and 2 days later, the company called me back and said, Mr. Jackson, how did you do this? I said, do what? He said, we got over 200 resumes the next day.
And you sent them to HBCUs,
I sent them to a couple deans. I didn't send them to a couple deans. They sent it off.
Deans.
There's a couple deans, and each dean, they got about 20 kids. Hey, get in the bus. Right? So they said, well, how did you do this? And I was like, how come you can't? You got the big search firm. You got head, so how come you can't?
They weren't recruiting at these universities?
Well, the thing is, if you're talking to if you're talking to the same people, Kathy, and I tell folks this, this is why diversity, you are going to get the same answer. So if you've got the same people in the room, I guarantee you're going to get the same answer.
I mean, they didn't think to recruit at career fairs
no, they would say, they told me they couldn't find anybody, just like they can't find women.
So again, they weren't really trying, were they?
Well, I won't say they weren't really trying, but again, you get somebody else. I came in with a new idea. That's all it was. Right.
Wow.
So I said, well, and I didn't want to fight
different connections than they
different
had.
Connections, a whole nother, there's fish.
A whole nother network.
You're fishing in this pond. There's all these other little ponds over here, and the fish are big because nobody fishes in the pond. Doesn't mean it's a bad fish. So I said, well, you got any more jobs? He said, yeah. I said, well, send them over. So I start sending out these jobs to all the HBCUs that nobody ever would go to. So you go down to Tuscaloosa, Tugelo, Mississippi, and drive 4 hours west. Nobody's going. But guess what? There's some great kids there, right? So that's how I started to really connect with the HBCUs, because I'm sending out these great jobs. And I called, and so it was working so successful for me that I was finding pipeline talent for this company. So again, it wasn't rocket science. I said, well, let me call a couple other companies I'm working with. I said, hey, are you having a tough time? They said, Mr. Jackson, off the record, we're struggling. I said, hey, send those jobs over to me. So I'm just doing this. I'm just sending these jobs out. Now it's helping me because I'm providing value to the companies I'm working with, right? You don't hear them on TV. You don't hear them on TV. You don't have the CEO on TV talking about I can't find it. So again, not Mr. Jackson sending us over a busload of kids. So what happened is, again, you tend to go to what's familiar, right?
But can I just amplify? That's what diversity does. When I hear you speak about that idea, it's so darn obvious, but no, not to someone who hasn't lived in your shoes. That's what diversity is.
But that's what diversity is. And so when people say
one person raises their hand, how about this? Have you ever thought of a Hispanic language product?
Right.
No, that's what diversity is. It isn't brain science to you, but it's brain science to this darn leadership team.
I think it's leadership. It's having the strength to say, hey, look what I need help. We can't figure this out. I can't, I got this great opportunity, which is a great opportunity, and I can't find kids for this thing. Right now, I could put my head in the sand and go, well, you know what? I tried, and you know what? These kids don't know what
they don't want it.
They don't want it. They don't even know. So Now, the thing is, the brave part is that, hey, Mr. Jackson comes in as opposed to that and they go, nah, those kids. So no, look at these kids. So again, that's diversity. I call it leadership. You're going the wrong way. So
or you're not thinking you're hiding what your challenges are. You're pretending you don't have challenges. You're not opening up to different ways of thinking.
Correct.
It's really so simple.
But a different way of thinking is if I've got a room full of women.
Yeah.
I need a different way of thinking. So how do I bring a male in here that you'll get ripped to shreds? So that's part of that whole process where hey, you know what? And again, Hank's sitting over in the corner because so Hank's sitting there and you go, hey, you know what?
Angry women, I'm going to be quiet over here.
But the thing is now, how do we change this, right? So again, you see this, you're a leader, you see this happening. And so everybody's going, well, you know what? We keep rehashing the same things. The numbers aren't getting better, gang. So I guess what? Hey, Hank, what do you think? And Hank goes, well, I don't mean to change anything, but why don't we go here? Now, again, you try, it doesn't work, doesn't mean you kill Hank. But what if again, it's a new way of doing it. Now, what if it worked? That's diversity. So you want to get to me, you want the best minds thinking about something. So if we want to attack, if we're not getting Hispanic folks, me sitting here without a Hispanic person in the room is insane to me.
It's insane.
But
I want to add one.
People would fight that. So again,
I love it. I'm going to add one more thing and see if you agree. And then we got to figure out where we can learn more, where people can go to get advice.
Sure.
But I mentioned it in another podcast, but it's too good not to say it again. When I was doing market research for a book publishing company, I hired a market research moderator, a focus group moderator, Ann Dobbs. She led every focus group saying this thing. Every one of you, 10 of you has been carefully selected because you represent our community, our audience, our buyers. We would be missing out if we didn't hear from you. Correct. So every idea has value. Now, here are the ground rules. Fred may not agree with Sue. We don't say, I don't agree. This is not the place for that. Correct. What we say is, I would like to build on what Sue said. Correct. And you share your idea. And, I was 30 and I watched, she set the ground rules and we had hundreds and hundreds of focus groups in different countries. Everyone towed the line. And when they didn't, she would let them have it in a professional way. Frank, remember, we're not tearing down ideas because every idea here has value. Now, what do you want to say? It's when you do that, you said it very clearly. And if Frank, you don't like it, off you go. You're not in our focus group. What do you think?
That person should be a CEO. That person should be a board member. That person. So again, that type of person, male, female, that type of person now has the ability to lead that type of group.
Oh, I got to chill. I do.
So when somebody says, I can't find a board member, that's her. So the thing is, part of what the CEO, and I call it a talent scout. How do you find talent? What does it look like? How do you find talent? How do you find, so again, there's people out there that can identify. So I think the greatest skill is talent.
Right.
And the people that can identify that talent. And the talent could, and one of the best examples, remember, what's his name? What's his name? He was in a wheelchair. What was his?
Not Stephen Hawking. No, that's
Stephen Hawking.
Hawking, yeah.
Brilliant.
What a mind.
Now, if you look at him, right? Oh, what does he get? The thing is, people were listening to his whispers. The guy was just every word. They listened to his whispers. But again, now if I got a hang up around him, who loses?
Right.
So part of that, the skill especially with the larger corporations, you can have a small one, it's just, you and your family. You get a larger corporation. How do I identify talent? How do I identify people that can, move organization forward? It's not about agreeing, move it forward, right? They're doing it in an ethical way. They're achieving their results. They are able to shift and get the best out of their groups. And again, in my lifetime, I've seen it. I've seen it. I can smell it. I can smell what the room smells like when that happens. I can feel what it feels like when that happens.
You're the diversity whisperer.
It is, but again,
I've been in, it's like an animal.
Whether it's diversity
like,
or not, whether it's diversity or not, I've been to places where nobody wants to be here.
Yeah.
Now I can't say that's diversity. You know what I'm saying? But there's nobody wants to be here, and everybody's afraid. I don't operate. No, most people do not operate. I don't. If I'm in a school, you're not going to get my best grades if I'm afraid. But if I'm able to do my full self and whatever that is, I can come in. And again, at the end of the day, we go off because I'm not going on a date or anything. I'm not getting. So we go off, and guess what? You respect my opinion. I respect your opinion. I've seen that where people just the results are unbelievable. Okay. And I believe that's diversity. I believe that's the business case for diversity.
Now, where do people learn about you? Where do they get your magazine? You have a LinkedIn newsletter. You have so much. Where do they go? Where do they
go to Racing Toward Diversity? We got it's an online publication. We put out a daily newspaper. It's free. We talk with thought leaders that around the world that kind of share their best practices. I like to think of it as like the Harvard Business Review for diversity. So we've got thought leaders all over the world, from supplier diversity to different ways of looking at religion and science. So again, all that kind of comes together. And so if you're looking to start, I would start with who's doing it the best, who's winning. Okay, now it doesn't mean you got to set your bar here, but again, who's not getting sued every day. Right? Let's start with that as a model. That doesn't mean you're going to get there, but again, you sort of need to know, and that's why the measurement. How do you know when you're winning? The only way I know if I'm winning is if I can measure this. And even if my diversity, and again, it's like, you want to go to the doctor's going to take your blood pressure. It just doesn't, feel you and go, okay, no, it takes your blood pressure. Okay, either it's good or bad. Now we've got a baseline. So once we have the baseline, okay, we got zero diversity. Okay, now if this is something you want to do, how do we become, and let's not get crazy, how do we become 2% in a year? 2%. That means out of every 100 people, two need to be diverse. Now, if your organization is fighting the two, you have a bigger problem than the metrics. You got a problem.
And I would love you to send me an article on how we measure diversity, because it's not just number of women, number of people of color. It isn't just that, I think. Is it? It is
just that.
It's pretty just is that?
It's pretty. It's numbers. So again, unlike any other department, you got a sales quota. Okay, you got a budget quota.
Right. I know what money. I know the number. I know the sales. I know the percentage.
Again, fields. You got to go from 3 to 5%. That's your goal. That's how you're going to get. That's part of sales is what drives the corporation. So if we don't hit these targets, everybody, you cut the lights off. So we got to do this, right? So that's tracked weekly, it's tracked quarterly, so you got a budget. The budget's $1 million. If you keep going over your budget, right? Number one, why even have the budget? But you keep going over your budget. So there's numbers for everything else except for diversity. And they go, diversity, well, no. You know what? So is diversity important? Yes. Again, yes or no? If it is, what is your number now? And everybody goes, well, I don't want to disclose. No. You have to. So even if it's a terrible number, what is the number now?
And I would also, I'll link to it. I interviewed, I believe it was Timothy Clark, I'll confirm, on psychological safety. So first you got to move the needle on the literal metrics of the diverse group that you have, but then you also have to make sure it's inclusive for them. It's not just I tick the box, there's 3 Black people and 4 women.
No, but
it's also how can they thrive there?
How can they thrive? But the thing is, you have to start.
You got to start. I'm with
you. You got to start. So that's the toughest part to start. So what is our diversity numbers now? It's 2%. So again, don't throw anybody under the bus. It's 2%. Okay, what would you like it to be? Well, I don't want to rock the boat or anything. So 2%. Okay, so 2% is fine. Hey, live with that. Live with it. All right. So the thing is, if I want to go from 2 to 5%, that's going to take me measuring this. Right. So again, we're going to start. So diversity is a lot of things, right? So if you're at 2%, you're not really good at anything, to tell you the truth, right? But we're going to get better, right? So from 2 to 5%. So every 100 people. So how many recs do we have for hiring? Okay, we've got these recs. Okay, so for every 100 people, we need to go from 2 to 5 people. And people say, well, that's reverse discrimination. Wait. 95% are just, whoever, they be the whitest guys on the planet. They're the whitest guys on the planet. 5 need to be diverse. Now, if I'm hung up arguing with that, I need to find the leaders that are arguing with me that going from 2 to 5 is a problem that's going to wreck the corporation. Really. Now, this is where the leadership comes in, because this could be my best buddy. This could be the VP I had. This could be the thing. This is the guy that I thought, was everybody loved. And all of a sudden I'm seeing the side of you that's telling me that you're going to fight this. Now, even if you sitting there smiling at me, by the end of the quarter, I said, okay, where are we? Well, not only at 2, we went to 1, because you see there's places that, it actually went backwards. Now, if it goes backwards, this is the accountability. What happens? Do I promote you? Do I not? So, hey, it feels he's just talking, he ain't no meaning. So now, hey, you know what? Next quarter, they go into the meeting and guess what? Fields is no longer there. Whoa. I guess he was serious about, he's serious about this, right? Well, you know what? And now again, we'll run out the excuse. I can't find anybody. Well, you know what? This guy Fields came in. And he goes to these places.
100 people.
He goes to these places called HGRUs or whatever. He goes to these places, and he seems to find people. So had you talked to him? He's a good guy. Have you talked to him? Nah, I don't like the way. Hey, you know what? I'm telling you, Jones. Next quarter, you need to move this from 3 to 5, and I'm here. I'm going to help you. If you can't find anybody, we'll bring some folks. You see what I'm saying? We'll bring some folks, because I want you to remain in the corporation, Jones. I do. So I'll help you.
I got it, Fields.
So at the end of the year, now what happens? It stayed at 2. Was there? So again, if my sales goal was going from 2 to 5, right? And I always tell us, like, I would love to be in the boardroom when you're giving your quarterly numbers and they go, well, how come we didn't hit these sales numbers? Well, I couldn't find the right channels. Before you finish that line of thought, Fields is
separation
resigned.
Agreement.
He's
right
resigned,
there.
To pursue personal. He Fields is gone. This is the only place that you get away with this. And how is that? So that's just me. And I think I don't want to say it's simple. It's nothing simple. It's tough. But there's ways that if you're serious about it, okay, we're gonna get the right folks in the room. And again, you need to know if you're not, I want you to be the right person. But if you're not, I need to find out. Now,
I'm so grateful for your honest talk and your honest view. Truthfully, you make it very simple. It's simple. It's not easy. Because
nothing's easy.
Nothing's easy.
Sales are not easy. Hitting my budget's not easy. Getting into a new market,
easy?
Nothing's easy. But
if it matters, if it's worthwhile, it's not easy.
If I'm getting into a new market, how do I measure the new market? So it's not easy.
No.
But again, I'm going to measure whether or not we need to be in this market or not. Do the same thing with diversity. And a lot of the stuff goes away. I don't say goes away, but it's because diversity
resolves itself because of focus and measurement. You get serious
on who's getting it done as opposed to what they look like. Who's getting it done?
Love it. All right, everyone. First of all, I can't thank you so much for your time.
My pleasure. I can't thank you for this.
Oh, so good. I want to hear from you, my friends. I hope this has perturbed something in you. If we're not messing things around here for you. If you don't have questions, I'm not doing my job. Fields isn't doing his job. We want questions. We want to hear, wait, I don't understand. We are diverse individuals. We support diversity. So if you have challenges to this, we'd love to hear wherever you see this on all the social platforms. We would love to hear from you, and please share this and scoop up everything Fields is doing, because it's really making a difference in the world. Thank you again.
Thank you, Kathy.
And have a wonderful week, everyone. We'll see you next time. Thanks so much for joining us today. And please don't forget to check out findingbrave.org for more programs, resources, and tips. And tune in next time for your weekly dose of Finding Brave.